Hello, guys. And at the very beginning of my vlogging, I remember how many good people who came to support Ukraine, leaving their comments, still mentioned that for many of them, Ukraine was or seemed a part of the USSR, the part of Russia, nothing different. And how difficult it was for me to hear as a Ukrainian, but at the same time, I've realized how important it is to introduce myself, to introduce you to many beautiful nations, which are very different from what the Kremlin wants to describe us. And today I am really honored to invite for a conversation Radjana Dugar-DePonte, who is a journalist, an activist, an anthropologist, a co-chair of movement Buryat Mongol, which is a part of the Free Nations League. And we will discuss all of that in detail. But first of all, Radjana is a great representative of her people, Buryat. And I believe that after our conversation today, you will clearly see that the Russian Federation is not all Moscow, is not all Russia. Welcome to the channel, Radjana, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Anna, for inviting me to take part in this conversation. It's a great honor for me and privilege to be a representative of my people to the wide audience of your channel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And let's start with something good in these really difficult times. Could you please introduce people to your people, to Buryat people, because I believe that is the best proof that the Russian Federation is not all Russia. And actually, this enormously large territory now suppresses a lot of beautiful nations. So could you tell a little bit more about Buryat people, your culture, your history?
Mhm. Well, Buryats or Buryat Mongols are people that speak a Mongolian language or one of Mongolian languages and that live in eastern Siberia in the south. Actually, we have a border with Mongolia, and the republic that I am from is called Buryatia, Republic of Buryatia, which is now a part of Russian so-called Federation. But ethnic Buryatia is much larger than the republic. Buryats also live like the republic is mostly on the eastern shore of Lake Baikal, which is
Mhm.
called Pearl of Siberia. And there are also Buryats that live on the western shore of Baikal in Irkutsk region, and to the east of the republic, which is Zabaikalsky Krai. There is also Buryat population in Mongolia, in China, and right now there is a growing Buryat diaspora, global diaspora, and I think that the largest part is now of this diaspora in the United States. And it is comprised of people who actually first wave, I would say, fled Buryatia because they were looking for a better, I would say, life.
Mhm.
But uh, a large part of this diaspora is now comprised of people who fled Russia after the start of this uh, aggression, uh, like new wave of full-scale aggression of Russia against Ukraine in February 2022. And also after mobilization, the so-called partial mobilization was announced, and it hit mostly, non-Russians
Mhm.
and such people as like Buryats, Sakha-Yakuts, Tuvans, and people from Dagestan, which is Northern Caucasus, and so on. And now uh, our people, those people who actually fled Russia because they didn't want to take part in this unjust war, they are now threatened because of the ICE raids, and many people were detained. They are waiting trials, and some people were already even deported. So this tragic history of my people is actually repeating again already in this new century. So my land was, I would say, a cradle of nomadic civilizations since times immemorial. We had like the origin of the nomadic husbandry was introduced I would say thousands of years ago by the Scythian tribes and peoples. Then there were ancient Turks who lived in the territory. There were the Huns, the ancient Turks. There were people speaking Samodian languages and also Tungus Manchurian languages, and also Mongolian, of course, languages. So I would say that blood of all these tribes, all these peoples that were ancestors that lived in my land, it still is in my veins. It flows in my veins, and we Buryats now are, I think, we are trying to restore the ties with this nomadic world, with the Mongols that were severed by the Soviet regime. They tried to sever these ties, but it's of course it's impossible to do it. And now we are learning to reestablish these ties, to become part of this huge world.
Thank you so much. This is indeed very interesting, and freedom of your nation, of our nation, of many other tortured and distorted by the Soviet communist regime, later the Russian Federation, would definitely make this world, freedom of these nations, a better place, a safer place. And my next question is closely linked to an extremely important movement, organization that actually gives a hope to all of us that free nations can be born on after the dissolution, potential dissolution, or at least decolonization of the Russian Empire. Could you tell us a little bit more about the Free Nations League? I know you are a co-founder, a president, we're a president of the Free Nations, and how can we help? How can this institution help the nations become free?
Free Nations League was actually formed in 2022. Soon, in the wake of the full-scale aggression, invasion of Russia and Ukraine, several organizations, like national liberation organizations, I would say, and regional liberation organizations, announced their plans to form an alliance, to form organization that would help our peoples to gain sovereignty and independence from this bloody empire. And right now, there are, of course, our ranks has grown significantly since then. And now there are representatives of Buryat people, of the Tatar, Bashkort, Sakha-Yakut, Circassian, Chechen people, of Erzya, Moksha, also regional movements such as Ingria, and which is, territory of St. Petersburg and the adjacent area, and Baltic Republican Party. So we are open not only to national liberation movements, but also to those regions who also seek independence from Russia. And our goal is to make sure that the dissolution of Russia is peaceful and controlled, so that we help to avoid chaos, avoid civil war, avoid all this bloodshed that a lot of people are afraid of
Mhm.
in case this empire finally collapses. So we are saying no. We are making this future right now. We are making our peaceful coexistence right now by you know having this alliance, by negotiating right now with each other, with other actors in this political field, so that when the time comes, there is a plan, there is a roadmap to creating independent democratic states on the territory of Northern Eurasia.
Thank you so much for having this plan. To tell you the truth, as a Ukrainian, I am glad to hear that such roadmaps exist, because we all understand that real peace and security can come to many of us only after the dissolution of the Russian Imperial project. Unfortunately, many people who watch us in different parts of the world still do not see Russia as empire. They describe their own countries as former empires. They work hard on, correcting the mistakes of the past. They reconsider some historical periods. And we nations that were once suppressed by the Kremlin clearly understand it's an empire. Well, there are unfortunately tons of evidence, but I believe that the Russian Empire is the last one dissolving in the 21st century, that it's the irreversible process. Could you agree or disagree with me concerning this understanding of Russia as still an empire? Maybe you can give us some examples of the linguistic or cultural rights being suppressed in Buryatia now being a part of the Russian Federation.
Well, I believe that Russia, of course, is an empire, and it never ceased to be an empire because its core is imperial. Since the very beginning of of the growth of this country, which first was called Moscovia,
Mm-hmm.
the main I would say engine behind that growth was uh, the desire to seize as much land as possible and to seize as much of wealth as possible. Russia started, Moscovia, right? First, it was Moscovia.
Yes.
It started its expansion um, first by uh, invading Kazan Khanate, which is now it is actually mostly Tatarstan. We know it now as Tatarstan, and then also by um, uh, by ending the democratic development of Novgorod Republic,
Mm-hmm.
because Novgorod was the main, I would say, a merchant that would sell furs to Western Europe. And the Muscovites wanted this wealth for themselves. And after they crushed Kazan, their they had open road to Siberia, which was uh, uh, mainland where the most valuable furs, of
Mm-hmm.
course, uh, were hunted, and the fur animals like sables,
Mm-hmm.
like foxes, and so At the time, in the 16th and 17th centuries, sable fur was actually equivalent of Siberian oil now, oil and gas.
Mhm.
And it was always, since the very beginning, the country didn't want to develop economy, science, culture, or anything. They just needed the money that they would
Resources.
sell these raw materials to
Mhm.
the West and then get, gold and other, luxurious goods from them. That's it. And it didn't really end. It was like all the time the country reproduces the practices, from the 17th centuries, and right now we have almost the same structure, the oligarchs, the Tsar.
Mhm.
Putin is a Tsar, right? He appoints those people who uh, rule the regions, like the Tsar did. There's
Mhm.
no democracy. It's right now they don't even call themselves democracy. Because before, like in the beginning of 2000s, it was like sovereign democracy. Right now, they completely, you know, uh, cutting their ties to the Western democratic countries. They have allies like North Korea, Iran, and I mean, it's just that finally, I think Russia actually is taking off the mask of a civilized country and shows its, imperial, despotic nature to the world. And I think that it's a good thing. It's actually a good thing because right now, people in the West, in democratic countries, they finally see Russia as it is. And because for a long time, Russia would do a lot of uh, uh, would um, uh, would create this image of a homogeneous country that
Mhm.
is populated by white Russians. And if you ask anyone, any foreigner about what Russia is, they would say, oh, it's like uh, balalaika, vodka, bears, Pushkin, Dostoevsky, Tchaikovsky, and so on. And many people don't even know that Russia is not homogeneous, that there are a lot of peoples that were colonized throughout its history and that are oppressed throughout the history. And some of them were able to actually break free, like Poles,
Mhm.
Finns, like Ukrainians, like the peoples of the Baltic states and Central Asia. But a lot of people are still oppressed and still colonized. And the narrative of the Russian Empire and actually Soviet Union was that they are not empire. We are not. They would say like all these peoples joined Russia peacefully and on their own accord. They wanted to become part of Russia. That's one lie. And I think that Moscow, in this regards, is a very sly fox because, especially in the Soviet time, they would actually support anti-colonial movements elsewhere, right? They would support anti-colonial movements in Africa, in Asia. They would pose as, this progressive force that helps people gain independence. But for the same ideas, people were oppressed and even executed in Russia, in the Soviet Union. And I myself first learned about post-colonial studies in 2006 when I was in Poland. I had a scholarship at Warsaw University, and we were studying post-colonial studies.
Mhm.
And for the first time, and I actually belong to academia, right? And I had no idea that such science, such field of studies actually existed.
Mm-hmm.
because in Russia, it was not even discussed. In academia, we didn't discuss it. We did not have any opportunities to learn about it. And suddenly, right now, of course, it is changing. And I think that, of course, the catalyst was this aggression against Ukraine, because people started to realize, maybe some people for the first time, that we were actually part of this empire, that we were colonized, and there is actually a way out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. As for the Buryats and our culture and language, of course, we can, I mean, I guess if you want to understand what happened to my people, you can maybe the best way to understand would be to compare the situation of Buryatia and Buryats with Mongolia, because Mongolia was, of course, it had this short period when it was under Soviet influence, but still it is an independent country. And now it is called an oasis of democracy in the region. Mongolian culture is thriving. Of course, Mongolian language is not threatened. And there are a lot of people that come to Mongolia from abroad, that they see how unique the culture is, and they are enchanted by it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Buryat culture and my nation is, maybe we are like mutilated by colonization, because a lot of people has lost their native tongue. Buryat language is now part, it was included in the Red Book of Endangered Languages. It's a list that was compiled by UNESCO. And right now, the Russians, the Russian state even is doing it's like they have this goal to eradicate languages of the peoples of the Russian Federation, because they have adopted a lot of laws
Mm-hmm.
that, first of all, the language, the teaching of native languages is now banned. It's not like banned, it's like it became
Non-obligatory.
obligatory,
Mm-hmm.
non-mandatory, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like something that you would choose
Club.
to learn, right? It's like a language club, right? And at the same time, the same Russian state is really concerned about, uh, situation with the Russian language in Baltic states and in
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
Though Russian is still taught in schools there, but they are saying that, it's like uh, it's an oppressive language policy, and no one actually is. There are not many people that know about the situation with Buryat language, with languages of the peoples of the Caucasus, of Bashkort language and stuff like that, because Russia was able to put us in the background, and they would present the great Russian culture, great Russian literature, and great Russian, ballet and everything. And that's why people don't know about us, really. And they don't, because if you don't know about anything, you don't know about the problems.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm always happy when we speak about the diversity of the people inside the Russian Federation, and then someone leaves a comment that, well, I visited Siberia or I visited the far east of Russia, and I was surprised that people are so different from the ones I saw in Moscow. Now I realize why. And with this suppression, with the constant ruining of these cultures, the planet is losing a lot. And you were so right when speaking about these masks that had finally fallen off Russia's face. That's exactly the feeling I had on the day of the full-scale invasion. It was a very dark day, a very difficult, emotional one, but I also had this feeling of like relief that, well, finally you see, because with the annexation of Crimea, Donbass, they were still playing like, and many weak friends were eager not to notice what's happening. But with missiles flying in the direction of every Ukrainian city, it was difficult not to notice that. But somehow, it is still very popular to reboot the relations between Russia and the United States, Russia and the European Union. And there are lots of photos and videos like every 5, every 10 years after another tragedy committed by the Kremlin, there is a reboot, new chances given to the Russian Federation. And you know, when I was preparing for our interview, I watched a lot of your interviews, and one phrase fascinated me, enchanted me, the word that you're using, because there you've actually said what I've been thinking but did not verbalize that maybe let's stop giving chances to the Russian Federation, to the Kremlin, because literally we cannot name a period in their history when Russia was democratic. And maybe we should give a chance to the nations now imprisoned in that Russian project, and maybe they can build a better democratic society. Could you speak a little bit more about this?
Well, yes, as a historian, I saw a lot of chances, of course, that Russia had throughout history. I would say, beginning with the First World War, when there was a chance that Russia would democratize if um, the democratic government would be formed. But of course, at the same time, it's like right now I understand that even then it was not possible. And the coming of the Bolsheviks was inevitable. But even if there was this bourgeois state, since you are in empire, you cannot be truly democratic. And that's why at the end of the First World War, all these European empires, almost all of them has dissolved. And Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire actually
Mhm.
also dissolved. And the Second World War, after that, the remaining powers also, imperial powers dissolved, like the British Empire. And it shows that if the country is a truly democratic country, it cannot actually keep people that don't want to be part of it, to keep it by force.
Mhm.
And the sign of democratic government, sign of democratic state is that they would allow the people to express their desire to self-determination, the key principles of democracy. And it is actually part of United Nations base. All right, it's like the that recognition of the right of the nations to self-determination. And uh, after the February Revolution in 1917, if in case Russia would become a democratic country, I mean the only prerogative for that would be that Russian Empire would dissolve,
Mhm.
right? Because it started to dissolve because Poland and Finland became independent. And then there was this period when all other nations started, seeking independence, because, the Buryat state, independent state, was announced in 2018, or I mean in 1918.
Mm-hmm.
And in many other regions, there would be similar movements, similar, independence movements, and even governments that would proclaim independence. But then, of course, after the coming of the Bolsheviks and repainting the empire in new,
Mm-hmm.
it was a different kind of empire. With this communist ideology, but it was still an empire. And finally, in 1991, right, when the Soviet Union dissolved, there was also it was a happy time for those republics that became independent, right? It was a chance for Ukraine, for the countries of Central Asia, to become independent. But then Russia was able to maintain all these republics that were still part of Russia. Everybody saw what happened to Ichkeria.
Yeah.
Once Ichkeria, Chechnya, declared independence, the country was invaded by Russians. And I think there were 2 genocidal wars there. And right now there is a puppet put by Kremlin, who's at the head of Chechen Republic, Kadyrov. So all other republics, when they saw this example, of course, they thought twice about, following the steps. And this is why Russia cannot be reformed. It is an empire. If it wants to be reformed, then it should let all these peoples that would not want to be a part of this country anymore, let free and go free. And yes, it is the last chance for Russia to become independent, and it would be if all those regions and nations that don't want to be part of it anymore, if they finally go free. That's it. As for the chance to us, to this new democratic states, I think that we deserve this chance. And a lot of people say that there would be chaos, there would be like despotic states who would arise on instead of Russia. But Russia is a huge despoty right now, and after the Soviet Union dissolved, there were several examples of successful states that actually were able to appear, like the Baltic states, like Ukraine, and for example, Moldova right now, right? They have democratic elections, they have a democratically elected president and stuff like that. There are also, countries like Azerbaijan, like Kazakhstan, that Kyrgyzstan in Central Asia. There are some problems with democracy there, but they are far, far, lesser than those that Russia has. And Russians and Russian politicians, and even those politicians that belong to Russian opposition, they have no right. They have no right to blame those countries and say that if Russia dissolves, then all these countries will become these Khanates that fight with each other, because in all this huge space, Russia is actually the one that brings discord among those nations. And as soon as Russia, is deleted from this scheme, then normal peaceful negotiations happen, like we saw recently negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan, right? So I mean, as Buryatia has great example of Mongolia, or which is a normal democratic state. It's, as I said before, it is called now an oasis of democracy. And the one thing is important is that Buryats were actually responsible for the formation of the modern Mongolian state. There was this generation of Buryat intellectuals at the beginning of the 20th century that helped young Mongolian state actually to appear and to be formed, to have all these new for the country institutions, the modern institutions. And there are a lot of those people like Tsibenjam Sarano, like Rinchino, like all these intellectuals that tried to establish a Buryat independent state, but they were able to establish Buryat autonomy within Russia, right? But all these people, they helped young Mongolian state to appear and to grow. And I think that's why, because we made it happen once, I think that there is a good chance that Buryats can make it again. We can make it again, and we can make it happen. And it's like we know what democracy is, or we have it in our veins, in our history. Buryats, we had first of all, like centuries ago, it was called military democracy. But then we were able to develop democratic institutes in our traditional society. And we have this experience of democratic, even within, when we were part of Russian Empire, we had democratic institutions like steppe dumas, and we had self-governance there. And in Russia, I mean, in European Russia, they were in a worse situation because the majority of peasants were actually slaves.
Yeah.
We never had slavery. And we know what democracy is and how it works. So again, those Russian opposition leaders, they have no right to call us, wild or other epithets, because we know what democracy is, but you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You never had it.
Exactly. There are lots of things that we actually share in common. The same serfdom came to Ukraine only with the Russian Empire. Until then, we had free peasants, and this freedom, this ability to make decisions, is basic for any democracy. Democracies can be different, but still, we want it, you want it, and Russia fears that. And they fear it to a great extent. And now perhaps we will touch a difficult subject of this full-scale war. And people who follow the updates notice that Putin is afraid of this open conscription, so he tries to conscript people from what they describe ethnically diverse regions. And I will quote the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, which justly considers this process and aimed at eliminating national and ethnic diversity within the Russian Federation, and to some extent making this national movements weaker, the danger of the independence, and so on. Do you observe such attempts, and do you think that that's another bad side of this war, to make weaker, to destroy this so-called by the Kremlin ethnically diverse regions, which are actually separate nations?
Putin and Kremlin are threatened by growing national liberation movements, by the desire of colonized nations to self-determination, to have self-determination and independence, and also by its own demography. Because, according to official data, the population of Russia is 140 million people, but the more objective sources actually show that this figure is actually too large. In reality, the population is not more than 130 million, or like perhaps even less than that, 110, 100. And this is the worst situation for the Russian people actually right now, because all sociology studies, demography studies show that Russian population is shrinking. It is shrinking in the western part of Russia and also in the east. The Far East, Siberia is losing Russian population because a lot of people right now and in the recent years also, they were migrating to bigger, larger cities in the West, like Moscow. And even from, the oblasts or regions that surround Moscow, the like the core Russian regions, they are losing people, losing populations. There are ghost villages, ghost towns all over the country. And the indigenous population, people from the people of the side of Siberia, like Buryats, were showing slow growth because, after all these, waves of genocides in the 20th century, when our population did not grow but shrank. And yes, there was this period in history when, after the repressions in the Civil War and Stalin purges in the 30s, in 1939, our population actually was diminished instead of, grown. We were showing, steady growth. So Russian, what we see now, if we see it with the eyes of Putin, for example, Russian population is steadily shrinking, and the population of the ethnic regions is growing. And of course, they are threatened. Also, they are threatened by the number of migrants, labor migrants from Central Asia in Moscow. And they see it as a threat. And one way to deal with it is to diminish the population of those growing nations. And so one thing is that, first of all, they invaded Ukraine, and they are waging this genocidal war against Ukrainian people. But at the same time, they wage another genocide of the ethnic population of, non-Russian population of Russia. So that's why I would say that Putin believes in demography the way Hitler did.
You know, at the same time, after Putin's blitzkrieg failed, I think that a lot has changed in the way other nations, political leaders see Russia. And I believe that we keep exposing their weaknesses. And what helps us survive some really dark periods is this feeling that the dissolution of the Russian imperial project is inevitable. That actually Putin himself triggered that. One of the reasons why people should prepare for that, make this process controlled, predictable, safe. And do you think that this failure of the Blitzkrieg, exhausting war, exposed Russia's weakness, economic, military, their inability to protect oil refineries, airspace, even borders? Do you think that this actually leads to the dissolution of the imperial projects? And if you agree, what potentially, what nations, what new countries, what new regions are ready to shape on that territory? Just like a brief introduction to those who discover this part of the world for themselves.
Actually, soon after February 22nd, 2024, maybe the next day, or even the same day when it happened, I had this realization in my mind that this is the end. This is the beginning of the end of Russian Empire. And I actually wrote a post in Facebook about it, that, this is the end. It's like when Putin started this full-scale aggression, he signed his own execution order. And soon this bloody Russian Empire would actually finally collapse, and new states, democratic states, would rise on its place. And my views didn't change since then. It actually grown. This idea has grown, and it has matured, really. And I think that since he was delusional when he decided that it was possible for him to invade Ukraine in 3 days, it shows, of course, it shows the weakness of the regime that is only being held by one strong man.
Mm-hmm.
From the very beginning of his rise to power, Putin was building the so-called vertical of power. But vertical is a very unstable figure. It's like, it's something that is not based on anything. It's not based on a ground. It's just something that can be easily can easily fall. And this is what is happening right now. Right now, this system is very volatile. It depends on the life of one man. And as soon as something happens, it will collapse. So our objective as representatives of our people would be to not lose this opportunity. When this window of opportunity opens, we need to be ready. And that's why I joined the Free Nations League, because I see this organization as, I see us as, something like European Union, because we have this idea that we need to build something like European Union in this huge territory. And we are working to attain this goal. There would be, I anticipate, new democratic Ichkeria, new democratic Circassia, and maybe a coalition of North Caucasian states. I see a very strong power and a very democratic Tatarstan, democratic Bashkortostan, free Ingria, free Königsberg, free Buryatia, Oirat Kalmykia, Republic of Moksha, Republic of Erzya, um, you know, Sakha Yakutia, Tuva, all these regions. And it is, I think that we just need to work harder so that we have this future, glorious, democratic future of our nations.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Radjana, for this conversation. But most importantly, thank you for preserving the culture of your people and the future of your people. Because empires do not survive in the 21st century. And our task is to defeat this Frankenstein, totally unnatural, and then to develop new contacts and new, safer, democratic states. Maybe you could teach us something in Buryat language for this positive ending of the video, maybe a phrase or something in Buryat.
Men de Sayın Bayna Hundata YouTube харакшат.
What does it mean? That's beautiful. Sounds.
I just said that I greet all the respected dear audience of your channel.
Thank you so much. Дякую in Ukrainian, and I hope that sometime soon we will discuss more good news from the new states appearing on a place of the Russian Federation. Thank you, Radjana.
Thank you, Anna, again. Thank you.